So we are here for round one, and my hand is not good, so I think this is a pretty easy mulligan. If it was like Overgrown Tomb and like maybe this Pulse was a discard spell or something, like you can make some argument for keeping it because you have like discard spell into 2 Goyfs and a Liliana, but even then I think this deck mulligans pretty well, so you can afford to ship hands like this back even if this was like a discard spell and this was a dual land. So I'm generally pretty you know, just loose with my mulligans, I suppose. It's just like if you think that your hand can't win, you are safe mulliganing, and especially with this deck, like you can, like your cards just outclass a lot of their cards. Like Tarmogoyf is going to be like maybe a 2-for-1. Liliana is probably going to be like a 2 or a 3-for-1. Siege Rhino is probably going to be like a 2-for-1 plus the ETB effect. So it's like you really don't need a ton of cards to actually beat your opponents. And then this hand is perfectly reasonable. And with hands like this, the hardest thing is often just deciding what lands you're going to fetch. And I generally like having just like a white dual and then being able to fetch additional swamps or forests basics. So generally you want to lead with Marsh Flats to get your dual land because Verdant Catacombs is actually a better fetch land. And this looks like a Boggles deck to me, and it sure enough is. So this is definitely a very problematic matchup. This is not what I want to see round one of a daily event, let me tell you. So now I know that I'm going to need to get BB for Liliana, and we don't have that now, so I want to get 2 black dual lands. So I guess I'm just going to get a Tomb now, and then we'll get a Shrine off this Catacomb here. I could go the discard route and try and snipe something, and that might actually be good. He could have another creature, which would stop me from getting him with Liliana, and my Tarmogoyf isn't necessarily going to do much. I think this game I'm probably going to win just by making him sack a creature, not necessarily by racing him with Tarmogoyf, so I'm actually pretty happy to have drawn this discard spell. And it looks like he does have another creature, another Boggle. 2 Rancors, Path to Exile, Keen Sense, Temple Garden. So if I take the Boggle and draw a land, we should be in pretty reasonable shape. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And this matchup is not super interesting. It's just, you know, can they stick a guy and fade a bunch of Edict effects and whatnot, but there are certainly some games where you can just bust them up by like Abrupt Decaying their enchantment, maybe messing them up in combat, blocking with a Tarmogoyf, or just racing them, but those games are very, very few and far between. So he's supposed to Keen Sense here. Okay, so now we're going to take 3, and I'm actually just not going to crack this fetch land. It might cost me some life, but I don't really want to thin my deck. I want to increase my chances of drawing a land. So if I draw a land, I like my spot. If not, we're in trouble. We did it. All right. Still gonna get the Godless Shrine. I mean, like, maybe not. Maybe Lingering Souls is just like something I'm supposed to discard. I do have some white cards that I kind of want to cast though. Like Siege Rhino would be very good, just giving me a little buffer, you know. So yeah, still kind of getting used to playing this deck. The old version didn't have a ton of white cards, so it was like, maybe you don't need to fetch a plains, but this one you kind of have to because you actually have a bunch of white stuff. So I don't have a ton for this matchup either, but it's one of those things where not a lot of people play this deck, but that's just kind of the beauty of Modern, where just you run into a bunch of random stuff, so you kind of have to be ready for it. I have things like Golgari Charm and a Duress, which are kind of good, and that's kind of, you know, what I'm trying to do with my sideboard is make it so no matter what deck I play against, I have a lot of stuff that I can bring in, but it just sometimes ends up being where it's like, oh, this deck is really good against me, and I didn't think about that at all because no one plays it. But you know, when there are 20 pretty reasonable decks, it's bound to happen. He has another creature. That's so bad for me. I did get pretty lucky to even be in a good spot already, but I don't know if I can beat this other scout. He's probably going to be able to trample over my Goyf. If I draw a land, maybe I can make Goyf and Souls, or I guess I can just make him discard a card too. It's pretty good. Maybe I can turtle up behind this Goyf, but I'm not. I'm going to have to get that path out of his hand. So he has Umbra, Rancor. Okay. Okay. We might be doing it. We just need him to not draw a better aura than Rancor plus Hyena Umbra. So we're going to discard the souls. Going to be able to disfigure his Core Spirit Dancer in a couple turns. This Goyf's a 5/6, so we're probably chump blocking and then using Liliana to edict his Glade Cover Scout if it comes to that. So this game's kind of weird, and like I said, most games in this matchup are. It's like, you don't chump block with Tarmogoyf every day, you know? Just one of those things. He discarded his Rancor. Okay, so now he has an Umbra and a Spirit Dancer and a random card, which is a Sunpetal Grove. And that's not the best land for this deck, because like, if you have a 2-lander with Razorverge Thicket and the Grove, it's just not great. So he's going to play the Spirit Dancer and then Umbra something. I hope it's the Scout, but yeah, okay. So he can still Umbra his Scout and draw a card. But if he Umbras this, that protects against my Disfigure, which is pretty annoying. But there's kind of not really a whole lot of reason for him to do that, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. It appears that he is tanking about this, which makes sense. It's a big decision, you know? If he goes for the Umbra on his Scout, again, I like my spot, but anything could happen. And it looks like he does go for it on the Scout, which I'm very happy with. Now I might actually have a shot. And actually get to keep my Tarmogoyf too, which is great, so I get to put him on a clock. Flashback some souls even. So yeah, now we might be doing it. And this is like a miracle to just like win a game in this matchup. It's so bad. Like, obviously, you know, like I have the tools, right? You know, I have things like Liliana and discard and whatnot, but it's still incredibly difficult. I was just fortunate enough this game. So we have a 6/7, so that's a 3-turn clock all on its own. And he has a Rancor in the card that he drew from his Spirit Dancer next turn. So I'm not too scared about what he can do here. And it looks like nothing, so that's definitely a good sign. I see no reason to hold this Overgrown Tomb. So we'll just keep getting in there, and then, yeah, whatever he plays, he's probably going to have to chump with. So his best bet last turn was to have a creature and then draw a Daybreak Coronet or something on the next turn and actually try and race me, but does not look like he's going to be able to get to do that. He is going to pants up his Scout with a bunch of stuff. I think this is worth it, just killing his land. I don't think it really changes anything for either of us, but... so now I have the option of attacking and killing his Umbra, and I think that's worth it. The other option is just like try and keep it back to blocks and to not die to whatever, but I don't think, like if he draws a Coronet, his guy's first strike and huge, so I can't block it really anyway, so and if he doesn't draw anything super good, then I don't really need to block, so I think it's just worth it to attack and kill his Umbra. I don't think there's anything he could have to kill me from 13. There's no like Berserk or anything that these decks play, so we'll see. We'll see if he can do the actual miracle. I'm not sure what it would be. There's a Spirit Mantle. It's not going to do it, though. I have these delightful spirits. That is it. We managed to steal one. I'm not sure if we're going to be lucky enough to have that happen again, but we'll see. He might bring in stuff like Leyline. I definitely want the rest. Golgari Charms. Slaughter Pact is really good because he might hold open a fetch land if he has them in his deck. I saw 2 Sun Petal Groves, I think, so I doubt he has fetch lands, but generally they'll have a Dryad Arbor in their deck to fetch. So when you go to Liliana them, they can sack it a Dryad Arbor, and Slaughter Pact's really good at breaking that up. Nile Spellbomb could potentially kill a Rancor, but I'm not sure if that's actually necessary. It's like if the game is at a point where I need, like, I'm getting to kill a guy, basically, then I think him getting back Rancor is not super important. However, there are times where, like, you Liliana Edict them, and then Rancors give them enough cards to actually just discard to the Liliana, so they're not completely destroyed by it while they try and rebuild. So I don't know. The only other thing is, like, another Disfigure. I basically want my removal to be as cheap as possible. But things like Pulse actually kill the random enchantments, so there's that. I think I can safely shave this Murderous Cut here. I don't know about these Spell Bombs. I think the other Disfigure is worth it. Timelies could potentially be worth it. Souls might be worth it. He has, like, Spirit Mantle and Rancor, though, so I'm just going to go ahead and say no to those Souls, I guess. And Anafenza might be a card I can safely cut also. And I wouldn't be surprised if Siege Rhino is too slow. But I don't think there's anything I really want, which is kind of unfortunate. I could also, like, try and Fulminator him, you know, like, chump block and then kill his land or whatever. And try and contain him that way, but I don't think that's a very good plan. I really don't think having 4 Siege Rhinos is correct. And I'm still not sure about the Spell Bomb. I do pretty much like everything else. I don't think Timely really does anything. It's possible that it's a better Rhino. Or at least one is a better Rhino. So if I draw 2 Siege Rhinos, I'm almost certainly not going to be able to cast them. But, like, Timely into Siege Rhino is actually okay. Might give me time to draw enough Disenchants or something. Or Liliana. So I could see that. Could also see just cutting a Rhino for another Timely, but I don't know. I want to try these Rhinos out, I guess. So we'll keep 3. We'll see how this goes. This hand has all the cards I want in it, but that makes sense because it's 7 spells. So clearly have to mulligan. And this is a pretty good hand. This is kind of what we want. I think on turn 2 we have to hold open Decay in case he plays a creature, in case he plays a Spirit Dancer. On turn 2, return 3, and then try to get him with Liliana. Hopefully he doesn't have the old Dryad Arbor. But like I said, I don't think he has that because of his... Oh, well, he does have Windswept Heath. Anything could happen, I suppose. I wonder if this is the game where, you know, he fetches out a Dryad Arbor and, like, Keen senses it and just, you know, starts... Oh, man, he mulliganed a billion times. I didn't even see that. Okay. How far did he go down? 3 cards? He mulliganed to 3. I might be the luckiest person on Earth. He doesn't even have a Dryad Arbor, it doesn't look like, because if he had a creature, he probably would have played it. So now I'm not too worried about him playing 2 creatures, so I can just run this Goyf out there. I think worst thing that happens is it gets pathed, but I'm also fine with that, and I'm not going to try and slow play it and, like, make him discard his hand with Liliana before I run out of Tarmogoyf. That's just kind of silly. So we have a couple of 1-2 beaters here. I'm pretty sure this Tech Edge is just bad. So I think that's what I'm discarding, although there certainly is some merit, you know, if he does play some weirdo utility land, like, you know, maybe it is Dryad Arbor, but I guess I can just Edict that. I think Tech Edge is just the right one to discard, though. Well, especially after I fetched, because otherwise I should have fetched a white. to potentially have my my Stirring Wildwood on, and yeah, that's it. So that might explain why this deck is not crushing Modern despite having a good black-green matchup, and it's because it's so volatile. It's just, all right, do I have a creature? Do I have a creature? Do I have a creature? No. No. You just have to keep mulliganing, and then you just end up losing. So this might be what I would consider to be my worst matchup, and we beat it, although got very lucky. I would have been, you know, kind of curious to see how this game would have played out because I thought I had a pretty good hand, but oh well, I'm not going to be too upset about that.